Hello, thanks for joining me today as I talk about Maine DEP's Municipal Stream Crossing Grants Program. My name's John Maclaine, and I'm the administrator of the Stream Crossing Grants Program and the coordinator of Maine DEP's Non-Point Source Training Center. I'm going to briefly go over some information about the grant program, applying for a grant, and the types of information we'll be asking for. I'll also talk a little bit about the Maine Stream Habitat Viewer and how it can help you in the grant process. First, I'll start off with a bit of the history of these grants. The first three rounds of grants from 2015 through 17 were from funding referred to as the Water Bond, which was standalone, and that was open to many applicants, not just municipalities. The rounds starting in 2019 were directed from the Transportation Bond, and that funding is limited to municipal crossings. There has been $5 million allocated to projects statewide for the last 2 years, with $4 million available in 2021. In addition to providing funding to 166 projects to date, the program has helped open nearly 200 miles of stream habitat to fish passage. I'll also throw in a plug that we recently updated our website to provide additional resources, including a map of all previously funded projects. You can find our website at the bottom of this page. We just finished up with our 2020 round, so those numbers aren't included yet. But this is the perfect time to begin preparing for this year's round, especially with the competitiveness of the program, the fieldwork component, and getting a head start can be really important. This year, we're holding a single round with $4 million available in funding for municipal crossings. As I mentioned, we do have $4 million in grants available this year, and that's done through a request for proposals, which will open in late August. We'll keep our website up to date with any changes. And for this round, we have increased the maximum award to $125,000 per project, and the scoring is based on how well the proposed project meets the program's goals. Essentially, we've boiled down the goals of the grant program to these three categories: that it reduces flooding and improves public safety, advances the restoration goals of fish and wildlife, and it represents an efficient and cost-effective investment. The scoring for the safety and flooding portion of the review considers the extent to which the proposed project allows communities to more effectively prepare for storm and flood events. And that's based on the degree of urgency of the proposed project, whether the culvert is at high risk of failure due to the age, location within a watershed or reach with a high flood risk or severe flood history, the contribution of stormwater and flooding management, the reduction in frequency or severity of flooding for upstream and downstream communities, and whether the project meets or exceeds the Department of Transportation's 100-year flood standard, which is 100% capacity of the crossing at the 100-year storm event. The cost and budget section of the scoring will consider the extent to which the proposed project represents an efficient and cost-effective investment, including the proportion of total project funding that will be provided from other sources, the potential avoided costs associated with the proposed project, and other efficiencies showing the project is a good investment of public money. Now, funds can't be used to cover all the costs associated with a proposed project, but that basically means there is no fixed match, but we are going to consider the percent contributed from the municipality in the scoring for this section. And the biggest scoring section is the improvement to fish and wildlife habitat portion. This is as much about the design and installation as its location. Now, each of the previous sections accounted for 25% of the score each. This section accounts for 50%. We're looking to score projects on goals of restoring fish, native brook trout, sea-run fish such as alewives, Atlantic salmon, but also wildlife. This is based on available stream survey data, statewide prioritization for aquatic connectivity, and presence in priority watersheds of salmon, alewives, and other diadromous or sea-run fishes. We're looking to see that it advances the goals of restoring habitat for wildlife, specifically by including stream banks, for instance. And we're also looking to see that it meets the design standard of at least 1.2 times the stream's bank full width, with a natural stream bottom or an embedded structure, and further utilizes stream smart design practices. One key tool we have to find out some of the information is the mainstream habitat viewer. This tool was developed by a number of partner organizations, and for years, folks have been out surveying and mapping stream crossings statewide. Nearly all of the crossings out there on public roads have now been completed. You can find your crossing location and pull up some basic crossing data, which is very useful in applying for a grant. We will ask you to include this information with the application. Now, the points are color-coded, and this can help you to come up with some potential projects to submit. Red crossings means the crossing is a barrier to fish passage. Yellow means that it's a potential barrier to fish, and green indicates that it's not a barrier currently. And you'll be able to look up photos of those crossings also. That can help you to determine whether or not that crossing is undersized compared to the stream, and help you, if you're a town road manager, for instance, try and figure out where the money is going to be best spent or where your effort is best spent. Now, if you click over to the Layers tab in the viewer, you can select various habitats. In this example here, the Atlantic salmon critical habitat's turned on. And you can also click through other habitats. Here's an example showing alewife habitat. Now, this can be very helpful also when you're starting to look at the crossings in a municipality, for instance, to see where the priority might be, or to select projects that may score better in this fish and wildlife section. Keep in mind that if a crossing is considered a barrier currently and you open that up, that's really what we're trying to get at for this program. So we're trying to restore that access to the remainder of the stream by installing a properly sized and properly installed structure. While improving habitat for any fish species will position you well, if the project does benefit brook trout, as we have selected in this slide, sea-run fisheries, Atlantic salmon, then not only is that properly designed stream smart crossing important for that location, it will have a very good chance of funding through the Municipal Stream Crossing Grants Program. One additional nice thing for all the municipal officials out there and road managers, you can actually get a list of all the crossings surveyed in your town. Now, keep in mind, this is for public crossings. And with all the information that's available on the viewer, you can compile that into a spreadsheet. You just click the Advanced Search tab, select the town in the drop-down, and search by the town. And then you can download this data as an Excel file. You can use it later. You can sort it by any of the criteria that are listed in there in the viewer, and you could potentially use that to help prioritize the replacement of your structures, whether through the grant or through other means. You can also get the corresponding map of the locations within your town. This tool is something we use quite heavily in the review and scoring of grants, but it isn't all of the picture. So I would highly encourage you to reach out to your local inland fisheries and wildlife fisheries biologists. The environmental review staff at IF&W are great. The Department of Marine Resources Sea-Run Fisheries program, and utilize other available online tools that can help you fill in the story. One other example that can be really helpful on the habitat side is the Beginning with Habitat program. They have some maps that can help you determine if there are other additional endangered, threatened, special concern species in the area. So just be on the lookout for additional tools that can help complete the story of the project and why it should be funded. So how do you get the funding assistance for a crossing replacement? First, you have to apply, but you have to qualify. And to qualify, the project must be a culvert. That's an important piece, that it has to be a culvert and not a bridge. And it has to be located on a municipal road, not a state or private road. Now, you can replace a culvert with a bridge, but we cannot fund a project that's already a bridge. Eligible project sponsors include local governments, municipal conservation commissions, soil and water conservation districts, and private nonprofit organizations. I'll end with some information about the upcoming grant round. We're currently finishing up contracts with 2020 awardees, and we'll be putting on workshops this summer to help folks prepare for the next round. The application materials are only available during the period the request for proposals or the RFP is open, which we expect to be August 30th of this year and ending sometime in November. We have a number of resources available on our website, including scoring guidance document, examples of past applications, the map, fact sheets, and many more resources. I hope you check that out, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions. And just a note that once the application period has opened, I cannot answer questions one-on-one. During that period, any questions you have will have to be submitted in writing. So with that, I will leave you with my contact information, and I'll